Hello, everybody. So happy to talk to each one of you again. Today, we are going to take a look at Acts 16. In Acts 16, we hear a lot about Paul and Silas. They were two men of God that were going around and sharing the gospel, doing exactly what God called them to do. And because they end up calling out a demon out of a demon-possessed woman, she was a fortune teller, and they called out this demon out of that woman, and the owner got really mad and ended up taking them to the authorities, and they're thrown into prison. So we see this in this case that Paul and Silas are going and doing exactly what God has called them to do, right? They are, you're seeing the signs and wonders and miracles, but then they hit a bump in the road and they get sent to prison. So when they get to prison, the story goes on to say that we see that around midnight, they're singing and they're praising to God in prison, right? You would think that after they've been walking and doing exactly what God called them to do, and a bump came in the road, right? Something that they didn't even see coming. They go and they're in prison and they're singing and they're praying to Jesus. I come to tell you today that there's power in prayer, all right? They're in there. The other prisoners are seeing exactly what is happening. And the jailers are seeing it too, and they're probably all dumbfounded. They're like, why are these two men coming in here singing and praising to God when they've just been locked up like all of us? So all of a sudden we see that as around midnight that they've been praying and singing, and around midnight we see it suddenly happen. There was a massive earthquake that took place. That suddenly happened, and all the prison gates opened up. And at that very moment, you would think that everyone would start darting out of that prison, right? But they all stayed still. And what happened is the jailer came running in. And the jailer came over to Paul and Silas and got down to his knees and said, "What must I do to be saved?" You see, at that very moment, you go through step by step of this story. Paul and Silas could have been feeling some type of way when they came into that prison. They were following exactly what God had called them to do, but yet they got to that prison point. There's times in our life that we are doing exactly what God has called us to do, and we are going to hit bumps in the roads. But there's people that are going to be watching us to see exactly what we do. Just like in that scenario, the prisoners and the jailers were watching Paul and Silas praise and pray while they're in there, and watch what God did, and he shook it all up and allowed them to be released. Well, I want you to remember that you stay prayed up, that when bumps come in the road, when you're following what God has called you to do, that you keep on going, you stay prayed up, because God is going to come and shake things up into your life and into your situation. So there is power in prayer. So thank you so much. Happy to talk to each one of you today, and you will have a great rest of your week. Talk to you soon.